My daddy took me to a bar when I was 12. Told me to pick my whiskey, so there's all these bottles behind the bar. I just pointed up there, and I said, I'll take that one there with a pretty turkey on it. And guys in the bar laughed their butts off. We got drunk as a couple of coots that night. My daddy was a good man, sharecropper, hard worker.
Sean Penn is an actor who commits so wholeheartedly to his performances that he vanishes into them. Some people use tricks and traps to do this. People, the idea of the hard-working method actor is almost a cliche in Hollywood. With Sean Penn, he just engages so that he's not playing someone, he's becoming someone.
Go to Drew Pigeon's house, talk to his daughter and her friend. Katie was with him last night.
Kevin, let's go. And guys, let's build the friends. Don't be hard on them. We get answers.
You got it.
Many of his roles are based on real people or people that he can deliver in a way that he can feel for. He excavates from inside in a true method fashion. He's a real method actor and finds elements of himself that will match or empathize the character he's playing.
Hey, come over, everyone gather around.
Hey, Milk, good job on course.
Thank you, and
the union
we were very
appreciates-
happy to do that. We were very happy to do that.
Everyone over here, gather around. Hello. I'm Harvey Milk.
Yeah, Sean Penn is more than just an actor and a director. He's become sort of part of the cultural fabric of America. He's part of America's conscience. He's a political figure, outspoken like his father. And he's made documentaries. You know, he's a world personality.
How's everything? I'm on right now. Thanks for coming. Put that tab on my bill.
Hey, yeah, man, I don't want to embarrass you in front of your friends, but the boss said no more advance.
No, don't give me a song and dance. Just put that tab on my bill. All right, guys.
Sean Penn was born in 1960 in Santa Monica, California.
His father was Leo Penn. He was an actor in the 1940s, and he was a left-leaning actor, very vocal in his support of the Hollywood trade union movement. And he was essentially blacklisted because he'd been to meetings where named communists had spoken, and he refused to name names. He was a man of integrity. So his acting career was cut off at the prime, and he tried TV acting for a little while, but he really made his name as a television director, Leo Penn. He found a second career in that. Eileen Ryan, Sean Penn's mother, was also an actor. She also was left-leaning. It was a passionate family with strong political views.
He went to school at Santa Monica High School, and the family moved, in fact, to Malibu after a while in 1969, where Sean spent a great deal of his time being a sort of beach bum. He learned to surf. He was kind of wild. His fellow students numbered Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, and Rob Lowe.
It seemed quite a blessed life, hanging out with his brothers. And in a way, you look at those two forces, the seriousness and the politics of his father and mother, the idea of acting as something ennobled, and the joy of living and growing up in California and being a surf kid. And they kind of tell you a lot about Sean Penn, that he has those two elements inside him, that there is something of the Californian gleam about him, that he has that kind of bronzed quality, but there is also that seriousness with him as well.
When he graduated from high school, he initially attended a local college where he did car maintenance and cinematography. And he decided very quickly that this was not for him, that he wanted to get practical hands-on experience. So he took an apprenticeship at a local theatre, but he also studied method acting with a local tutor, which he worked very hard at both. He, from the age of 18 to 21, he was working in both fields and performing a little at the theatre that he was training to be a technician at. His mother came down to watch one of his performances and afterwards took him aside and said, "You will never make it in this industry." Something again that seemed to have only inspired and fired him up. So he auditioned for and got a part in a Broadway play, Heartland, where he played the timid son of an overbearing, abusive father. It was a short run, but the applause and the recognition he got made him decide this was for him. He had an agent and he got his first role in his first movie, Taps.
The property of the people of the state, if that means resorting to armed force for all.
Even if that means directing that force... They won't interview us. Police won't let them.
I will not risk the life of my men just because they...
Why do I get the feeling that that guy'd have a world of pleasure blowing our brains all over his truck? You see any way out of this? Depends on Beish. I've been wondering about that heart attack. I mean, what if General Beish never even had a heart attack? What if they're just keeping him from us? Why? Why would they do that?
Taps is a film set in a military academy, which is, after a distinguished and long life, is due for closure. George C. Scott plays the head of the school, and he suffers a heart attack. And when he's in hospital, the cadets all decide to basically take over the school and try and prevent its closure. This is an ensemble piece. There are a tremendous number of young actors in this, and Sean Penn is one of the leading players. He's up against Tom Cruise. This was to prove Sean Penn's debut movie, and he shines in it amongst an ensemble which included Timothy Hutton and Tom Cruise.
After Taps, Sean Penn had a breakthrough role in the comedy Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Who ordered the double cheese and sausage?
Right here, dude.
Here, dude.
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you're doing?
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Mr. Spicoli, you're on dangerous ground here. You're causing a major disturbance on my time.
You know, I've been thinking about this, Mr. Hand. If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I think, is the early film in Sean Penn's career that everyone remembers. It's a very significant film in its own way. It's directed by Amy Heckerling and based on Cameron Crowe's memoirs of essentially going undercover in an American high school, San Diego High School, and writing a book about his experiences, the relationship between the teachers and the pupils, the different factions within 1 year of pupils. And basically, Cameron Crowe stayed for an entire year and wrote this story. And it was compressed into a very interesting movie. It's an ensemble piece, and it covers the different lives of the main characters. And we have Jennifer Jason Leigh, Phoebe Cates, Judge Reinhold, and you have Sean Penn as essentially the stoner surfer character. And while that's since become something of a cliche, this is really the first time we get it in high school terms on a screen. You can say that Sean Penn's character pioneers the dude factor of American movies in the 1980s. In fact, Sean Penn said he based a lot of his character on a guy he'd hung out with growing up in Malibu. He said, I knew this guy, I knew him straight away. And he remembered this guy who would just not do a lot, would hang out, would be stoned a lot of the time, would have this kind of language. Dude, what? Had this ridiculous way of stepping back from things and not really sort of judging them through the confused eyes. All the body language of Sean Penn's character is built on a real person. So he never told him. He said, I just used this guy because I understood that. And that tells you a bit about Penn as an actor, that he was drawing on real things to inform his character.
Following Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Sean Penn worked with director Louis Malle on Crackers. The following year, he starred for another acclaimed director, John Schlesinger, on 1985's The Falcon and the Snowman.
I will not have dope deals made in this house.
What dope deals?
When is it gonna stop?
I'm not dealing dope anymore. I'm out of it.
You jumped bail, you disappeared. Probation people call us night and day. The cops have our house under surveillance.
No, they do not.
You missed Christmas by a week and you come back with all this junk.
You want to know what I was doing?
And you're not here an hour and then you're
You
on
want
the
to know what I
phone
was
making
doing?
the goddamn dope deals.
I was doing top secret.
I'm sick and tired of it.
The CIA. I was working for the CIA. Me.
The Falcon and the Snowman is based on a true story about a young agent who had trained initially to be a priest and had a very strong moral code. This character, played by Timothy Hutton, is dismayed to find evidence that the American intelligence services are interfering in foreign elections. And he decides he wants to, almost as revenge, he's not into this for money, he just wants to square his conscience. So he wants to inform the Russians as to what's happening. The only person he thinks he can turn to is Dalton Lee, his high school friend, played by Sean Penn, who is a drug dealer. Now, both these kids come from well-off families. Their meeting to decide to sell secrets to the Russians take place next to one of their parents' swimming pools. Dalton Lee, Sean Penn's character, he is basically caught stealing drugs every now and again. He's let out on probation. His parents thinks it's just a phase. But the way Sean Penn plays him is as someone who's very on the edge. He's very wired, he's very paranoid, he's always worried about the law. He feels like someone who is in this life for good. He's not a teenager playing around.
I gotta lose these guys.
In 1989, Sean Penn starred in Casualties of War.
Casualties of War is a terrific Vietnam film directed by Brian De Palma, and a terrific example of what Sean Penn can bring to a screen, the kind of brute force of Sean Penn. It takes the Vietnam War, but it takes a kind of microcosm of it. There've been a lot of, the whole spate of Vietnam films that sort of led up to it, Full Metal Jacket, Platoon. It was an era of those kind of films, but De Palma does something, I think, very different. It's about the reduction of the American soldier into someone soulless, into a criminal, basically. It's how the war turned men. It stripped them of morality and turned them into criminals. And it's a great, really well cast film as well. You have Michael J. Fox as the young private, and it's through his eyes and memories we will see the story that unfolds. Basically, he's part of a unit led by Sean Penn, Sergeant Major. And he's a good Sergeant Major, this is the point, he's a good soldier. He saves the life of Michael J. Fox early on in the film. There is a sense that he knows what he's doing, but what he doesn't have is a soul. It's gone, it's been whittled away. Maybe he was like that when he came. These are the questions the film throws up.
In the late 1980s, Sean Penn became a tabloid figure due to his turbulent marriage to Madonna, with whom he co-starred in Shanghai Surprise. He would also star for director Dennis Hopper in Colors, for his father Leo Penn in Judgment in Berlin, and for Neil Jordan in We're No Angels.
We're No Angels is Neil Jordan remaking a 1955 comedy about convicts escaping from prison and disguising themselves as priests. In this case, the convicts are played by Robert De Niro and Sean Penn. They escape from jail, and it's set in the 1930s during the Depression, and it's a 30s jail, so it's the most brutal place you've ever seen. They escape with a killer who dies relatively quickly, and you see them enjoy their freedom, but they play these characters as these beautiful, almost not quite Abbott Costello, not quite a comedy double act, but the interplay between De Niro and Penn is absolutely joyous. The chemistry between them is wonderful to behold. Sean Penn's character initially is the slightly stupider one. You know, he's the one with the kind of the slightly dumber reactions and slightly baffled by everything that's going on. But across the course of the film, as the two men are mistaken for priests, end up in a monastery, taken in by a father who believes they really are two visiting priests, we watch Sean Penn adapt to the situation. There's a moment where he's called on to give a sermon. And in a way, the joke of the film is we focus in on him and assume this is going to be a catastrophe and how he rises to the occasion. Really, Sean Penn's journey is someone who stumbles into the church and finds his faith, whereas Robert De Niro remains someone who's just basically in this place to get across the border to Canada and freedom. So the Sean Penn role, you're watching Penn just basically take off a skin at a time as he moves towards this almost state of grace towards the end of the film.
After We're No Angels, Sean Penn began the new decade by directing his first feature in The Indian Runner, and by starring in a pair of critically lauded crime dramas, State of Grace and Carlito's Way.
With all due respect, Your Honor, these circumstances that you speak of include illegal wiretaps and tainted evidence. I mean, this is a classic fruit of a poison tree situation. Now, I think that after 5 years of unjust incarceration, it is reasonable to request that Mr. Brigante be indulged his right to speak.
Okay, Mr. Brigante, I'm all ears.
Okay, Your Honor, with all due respect, past and present, and without further ado, let me assure this court that I am through walking on the wild side.
Carlito's Way saw Sean Penn after a certain time away from cinema, when he sort of announced that he might retire, come back in with all guns blazing. He plays the crooked lawyer of Al Pacino's gangster who is actually trying to go straight. In fact, in the course of the film, it is quite clear who the real villain is, and that is, in fact, Sean Penn. He's absolutely amazing, this. It takes a while for him to recognize him because he's got this sort of permed hair, he's got funny glasses, he acts like an absolute sort of insane person, cocaine-taking lawyer who, in fact, drags Al Pacino back into criminality almost by default, and in fact causes the sort of, triggers all the terrible events that happen. It's an extraordinary look-at-me performance, but it's completely authentic. It was based on supposedly a famous lawyer who actually did exist, who tried to actually take a lawsuit against it, but that came to nothing. Anyway, it certainly showed that Penn was still functioning at full tilt. Absolutely dynamic, terrifically funny, and very dangerous.
Following Carlito's Way, Penn's next role would see him playing a death row inmate in 1995's Dead Man Walking.
My daddy was a good man, sharecropper, hard worker. So one thing I got from him, working hands.
How old were you when he died?
14. Why's you a nun?
I was drawn to it, I guess. I mean, that's a hard question to answer. It's like asking you why you're a convict.
Bad luck.
Good luck, then. I had a loving family, a lot of support. I guess I felt obliged to give some of it back.
Don't you miss having a man? Don't you want to get married, fall in love, have sex?
Dead Man Walking is a film directed by Tim Robbins with Susan Sarandon and Sean Penn. And it's a message film. It's a film that the three of them who are and are committed anti-death penalty activists wanted to make, to tell a story about the evils of the death penalty without giving the idea that the person whose life was at stake was innocent and holy. They didn't want to create a story that was easy to sympathise with the victim of the death penalty. So the character that Sean Penn plays, Matthew, is a genuinely unlikable rapist and murderer. He's got almost no redeeming characteristics at the beginning of the film. He is aggressive, he is part of the Aryan nation in prison, he's racist, and he is very badly behaved to Susan Sarandon's nun, who comes to him to give him spiritual comfort. He lies to her and he tries to get her to help him with his appeal. And as she helps, she meets the families of his victims and she realizes he's guilty. So we watch then the next stage of the film, which is Susan Sarandon trying to have Sean Penn accept his own guilt. She does it through her faith and through her grace, but really she wants him to be at ease with himself, to accept who he is, so that he's not going through these sort of weird, twisted lies that he's convincing himself of. But there's something that Sean Penn puts into this unforgivable character that in a strange way allows us to forgive him.
I like rebels. Some blacks is okay. Martin Luther King, he led his people all the way to D.C., kicked the white man's butt.
You respect Martin Luther King?
But he put up a fight. He wasn't lazy.
What about lazy whites?
Don't like him.
So it's lazy people you don't like.
Can we talk about something else?
In 1997, Sean Penn starred opposite Michael Douglas in The Game.
You ready to order, sir?
No, I'm still waiting. This was iced tea? Conrad, what a surprise.
Happy birthday, Nicky.
See more butts. I'll never get tired of that one.
That's why it's a classic. This is a nice restaurant. They gave me a free jacket.
I'm sure they're gonna want it back.
I remember being here a long time ago.
Yeah, I took you here once.
No, I used to buy crystal meth off the maitre d'.
Oh, really?
In college.
Which college?
Touché.
The Game is a lighter note. Maybe that Sean Penn had been in so many sort of heavyweight things, both in his directing career and his acting career, that when David Fincher came along with this thriller, and it was a smaller role in the thriller, I think he may just have thought, I'm going to have some fun. I'm just going to release a little bit and try a film that's a bit more of an entertainment. It's a peculiar film in many ways. It's a sort of Kafkaesque thriller in which Michael Douglas, who is the central character, plays this millionaire businessman who lives a life that's so controlled and organized. He has numerous assistants, that everything is measured by the minute. And he doesn't really have a life. He sort of lost his humanity. And his brother, played by Sean Penn, gives him this birthday present. It was an enrollment into a game. And the game, it's got a wonderful, preposterous idea. It's a very sort of contrived thriller concept, is that once he's signed on to play the game, his life starts to unravel. These outside forces start to pull in. It starts with like a pen leaking, and eventually all his bank accounts are stripped. He goes on the run, he's accused of murder. This ever-increasing sort of Kafkaesque world, but he can't get answers. And circling this is the character of the brother. And from Fincher's point of view, I think what he wanted from Sean Penn was an emotional context, that, who would do this for his brother? Who would put his brother through this and why? You needed someone who was intensely emotional. So Sean Penn made sense. And he also wanted the audience not to know how to judge the brother character. Is he in for to help his brother? Is he a good guy? Or is he part of the conspiracy? Is he just part of this maze of torments? And because it's Sean Penn, you're not sure.
In the same year as The Game, Sean Penn would also work with director Oliver Stone on U-Turn. Then in 1998, he starred for Terrence Malick in The Thin Red Line.
You haven't changed at all, have you, Whit? You haven't learned a thing. All man has to do is leave it to you. You put your head in the noose for him. How
many times you been AWOL?
The Thin Red Line is Terrence Malick's extraordinary film set in the Battle of Guadalcanal. It has an extraordinary number of great actors in it, young actors. It's a real ensemble piece, and so you need to be really special to stand out. Sean Penn plays one of the major characters in it, and he does stand out immediately. He is particularly good at dialogue with Jim Caviezel, who is a soldier he's in doubt about what he's meant to be doing there, and he seems to be weak. Penn is not weak. Penn is there as a soldier. He may not agree with everything that he's doing, but he is committed as a military person in order to be able to get the job done. It is that subtlety and that kind of humanity that reaches deep inside this film, that it goes far beyond any kind of war film. Malick, of course, is a master of combining a kind of poetic vision of landscapes, nature, with human interaction, and in this case, human real action. Quite grisly from time to time, but at the same time, it is also one of the most beautiful war films ever made. Penn is quietly stoic. He's very fine. He damps down the kind of violent energy that you know is inside him, and he becomes more of a philosopher, which is absolutely right for the tone of the movie.
Penn would follow up The Thin Red Line with 1999's Sweet and Lowdown.
It's going to be a lot of cats there, man. We always have fun at Donald's, you know what I'm saying?
Dono.
Well, Donald. Have we got it right?
Wife says, hold on.
You okay with that?
You take care of that. And don't forget to pass.
No, I told you.
Caught what?
Mind your business. Watch the road.
Well, I got this.
What you got there, man? Is that a 45?
45.
45 what?
Oh, hey, hold on.
Wait, no, whoa. Hey,
see my grandfather had one of those.
Hey,
You want to go to the dump, shoot some rats? Huh?
Sweet and Lowdown is Woody Allen's mockumentary that, in very Woody Allen way, is based on La Strada, the Fellini film. So it's essentially about the relationship between a very overbearing, rather bullying character in the original film, a circus performer, in Woody Allen's film, a jazz guitarist, and his romantic interest or the victim of his ways, however you want to portray it. And in Woody Allen's film, this is Samantha Morton's mute character. And the story is sort of a romance, really, that this egomaniacal, irresponsible, terminally unfaithful jazz guitarist, ridiculously full of himself. You can see why Sean Penn was perfect, can't you? And his realization that this much put upon mute woman, who's just a laundress, is the love of his life. That's the kind of trajectory it goes on. But we've got a journey through the follies of an artist. And that's what it's about, really. And he learned 20 of the songs, absolutely perfection. He wasn't playing the guitar, he was fingering. They used about 9 in the film in the end. But he did it, he stepped up, but he said he never picked up a guitar after that. He was so intense with his guitar playing that he couldn't face it after that. But that's Sean Penn. Even though he's in a comedy, even though it's kind of this romantic story, even though, of course, he's playing this kind of ridiculous, overbearing character, he had to be real, he had to be authentic. We couldn't doubt Sean Penn on the screen. And he got an Oscar nomination for it.
At the beginning of the new millennium, Sean Penn worked with director Catherine Bigelow on The Weight of Water, and turned director himself once again with Jack Nicholson as star in The Pledge, before taking on an ambitious role in 2001's I Am Sam.
Yeah, we are lucky, are we lucky? Yeah.
Rooty tooty, fresh and fruity, sunny side up, not too runny, 2 sausage links, French pancakes instead of buttermilk, fruit topping on the side.
Yeah.
The Funny Face Special.
I always think it's funny when you say funny face special.
French, not buttermilk. Fruit topping on the side.
Down top, down top.
They're getting a funny face. It's a wonderful choice. It's a wonderful choice. Thank you, Grace. Thank you very, 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 very much.
You got it, Sam.
Is that too big? Yeah, I think that's a little too big.
You need a pair of good, sturdy school shoes.
I Am Sam stars Sean Penn, Michelle Pfeiffer, Laura Dern, and a very young Dakota Fanning in the story of a man with the mental age of a 7-year-old who becomes the father of a young child after a casual encounter with a woman who then runs away and leaves him with the child. The heartbreak of the film is as his child grows up and becomes 8, 9 years old, she starts to leave her father behind, academically, educationally. He can no longer help her with her homework. And she decides that she's going to stop learning to read because she doesn't want to outperform her father. So there's this amazing emotional bond between Sean Penn and Dakota Fanning. And some part of Sean Penn knows that this is not the best that he could do for her, but he loves her so much. He also spent a long time studying and working at a school for grown men with the same mental age so he could understand and be as truthful as possible to that. He also insisted that his friends in the film were cast from that school, so we're all around him. The characters who are playing his buddies are from the school that he spent a long time training in. He was doing everything he could not to be the actor who swans in and plays the, mentally disabled guy. He wanted to make it a performance where the people who helped him arrive at that role were as much a part of the production as anything else. And that, I think, rescues this film from one of the accusations that was flung at it, which is it is another actor who's playing someone disabled in order to, improve their reputation. I don't think that's Sean Penn's game. I think he's someone who brings those people with him. And the way that the film deals with the courtroom scenes where he's trying to win his daughter back, but ultimately realizing that really perhaps she's better off without him, are amongst the most heartbreaking in cinema.
Although Sean Penn would go home empty-handed after his nomination for Best Actor for I Am Sam, he would win the award for his very next performance in Clint Eastwood's Mystic River.
Yeah, that's Roger. Yeah.
Hey, man.
She in there, Sean?
We don't know. All we're doing right now is looking.
Why don't you quit blowing sunshine up his ass and let us take a look?
I'm sorry.
It's my daughter's car.
I understand.
It's my daughter's car. It's got blood in it.
Mystic River is Clint Eastwood's film based on Dennis Lehane's novel set in Boston about a bunch of friends who, when they were children, one of them was kidnapped and sexually abused. And as adults, they still retain a kind of friendship within their very tight-knit community. Sean Penn plays a man who's actually been in prison and he now runs a convenience store. His daughter, as an adult, is kidnapped and killed, and he tries to find out who did it. One of his friends has gone into the police force. This is played by Kevin Bacon. He is also on the hunt for the murderer. Unfortunately, the suspect is Tim Robbins, who is in fact the third friend and who was in fact traumatized because he is the boy who was kidnapped and abused. This is a very, very tight, brilliantly directed film, brilliantly acted. It gave all of these actors the opportunity of a lifetime because Eastwood at this stage was at the peak of his game as a director. Sean Penn loved working with Clint Eastwood. Not only because he is an actor, but he also allows actors to bring to the roles what they can. And Penn is always very well prepared.
Is that my daughter there? No! No! No!
In 2003, Sean Penn starred in 21 Grounds.
Hey, honey, I'm coming.
feel great.
Have you been smoking again?
I think Sean Penn really chooses roles instinctually. I think he would admit that he has to have a feeling, and because he has this sort of social consciousness and he's a serious-minded guy, his instinct will always take him down a certain kind of path. And it's right to say there is a Sean Penn kind of role. And that's really embodied by 21 Grams. It's directed by Alejandro González Inarritu, the Mexican director, who certainly early in his career wanted to make films about death. And here we have a study in death, really. And Penn was drawn towards the script, but also drawn towards the director. And it's a mystery story and it's a murder story, but it's really about the effects of death upon people. You know, it's a big Mexican film. But Penn said, you know, he just said it was actually easy to make. It was one of those occasions where everything was in the screenplay. The director was the kind of storyteller who would come on and go, this is exactly what I want. This is how the scene plays. There was no need to interpret. You knew what was in front of you. And he said, despite the film being heavy to the extreme, it was relatively easy to make. It was quite a light film behind the scenes.
After 21 Grams, Sean Penn starred in the assassination of Richard Nixon, before working with director Sidney Pollack on The Interpreter. He received great praise for his directorial work on 2007's Into the Wild. Then in 2008, he would win yet another Academy Award for Milk.
Well, hello, Harvey Milk. Welcome to Castro Camera. Yeah, you know, I would like to join the, what's it called, the Eureka Valley Merchants Association.
Yeah,
I'm not an interloper. A Jew, perhaps, but I hope you'll forgive that.
If you open those doors, the Merchants Association will have the police pull your license.
Under what law? Excuse me?
Milk is the biopic of Harvey Milk, San Francisco's first openly gay elected official, played by Sean Penn in a bravura performance which combines not quite an impression. He spent a long time studying Harvey Milk's clips, footage, listening to him talk, capturing a particular quality. If you put footage of the two side by side, there's, even in the way Sean Penn stands and smiles and holds his body, there is something so clearly Harvey Milkish about the way that he is, that it's almost spooky. But at the same time, he's not doing a straight impression. He's telling a story that we've never seen Harvey Milk go through. He's bringing Harvey Milk into parts of his life that we've heard about but never seen. And he begins essentially talking about looking back on his life, explaining his life story, how he'd moved from being a Goldwater Republican to being a committed gay activist in San Francisco, fighting off homophobic cops for the community. He talks us through this, and we see him begin to form an alliance of people. The one centre you have in this is your genuine love and affection for the Harvey Milk character, who's so kind and so upbeat and so passionate. This is what Sean Penn manages to do, is you forget, in a way, by the end of the film that you've watched a Sean Penn film. It almost feels like you've had an incredibly insightful documentary. You don't notice the actor, you notice the man. And that is a phenomenal performance from any actor. And so phenomenal that Sean Penn won, yet again, the Academy Award for Best Actor.
In his later career, Sean Penn has worked once again with Terrence Malick on The Tree of Life, and has returned to the director's chair for The Last Face and Flag Day. He would also receive further critical praise for his performance on screen in Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza.
Pizza is a Paul Thomas Anderson film, very picaresque, very bizarre. Sean Penn has a sort of large cameo role as a very veteran actor who the girl goes off with at one stage and has a date with. Sean Penn plays him like a kind of William Holden, roundabout sort of middle age. He's an alcoholic, he's very charming, very smart, but there's a real wild streak to him. Actually, I have to say the film is sort of a mess, but the two leads are great because we haven't seen them before. But Penn, when he comes on screen and his sort of suit and tie, gets drunk with a girl, and then he goes and he says, I'm going to, and it's a real surprise that she actually goes with him. He's very, very funny in this. And it's not a huge role, but of course, Sean Penn being Sean Penn, he makes his mark.
In the end, when you come to view him, you come up close, you come in for your close-up on Sean Penn, you think of the performances, and you just think the power he's drawn onto the screen is something unprecedented. You go right back to Fast Times in Ridgemont High, and he's kind of that, he just brings that character to life. Casualties of War, Carlito's Way, then into the likes of Dead Man Walking. You know, he brings strength and something formidable to the screen.
Whether that be, you know, a stone surfer dude with blonde hair, or whether it be a gay activist in San Francisco, a violent rapist sergeant, all of these people, Sean Penn disappears into them. So he's got a very recognizable, identifiable face when he's being pursued by the paparazzi. You couldn't mistake him for anyone else. But on screen, he disappears into the roles that he's playing. And that is phenomenal for an actor with that level of energy and commitment to his life to vanish willfully on screen and remain a movie star. And these are not the things that our movie stars do. Our movie stars remain themselves and acquire the role. Sean Penn becomes the person he's playing.
I think that he is, because he is so committed to his work and his life, that he also puts his heart into it. This is very important to him. He won't take on roles, or very rarely takes on roles, that he feels don't speak to him. And if they don't speak to him, he won't be able to deliver and speak to the public. I think that's what makes the difference. He is an extraordinary actor, an amazing body of work, and cinema is lucky to have him.